Never assume ever, and I mean ever, that because someone has a fancy title or a degree that they are competent. So I see this guy all over, Patrick Bet David, and I've seen him make some good points and some mixed points, shall we say. And I'm curious to see how this interview goes. So let's dive right in.
The wind is pretty solid. How you talking? Very good. Good to meet you.
Nice solid handshake.
That's great.
Who am I here with today?
Patrick Bet David.
What was the most amount of money that you
Look at that eye contact.
250 million.
250 million.
This property we're on right now, the guy that owned this bought it for $25 million in 2018. This was announced that's going on the public market for an auction. 4,400 people were interested in this property. 131 signed an NDA. And then there is the day that everybody's bidding. You have to put $1 million to compete. The day the auction comes. We ended up buying this for $25.2 million cash. We wired the money a week later. We bought the property. This is probably a $40-50 million property. Having cash allows you to pick things up. Unfortunately, not having cash when the market goes
being rich is awesome.
bad, a lot of people don't make it.
They want to become Patrick Bet David wealthy in today's world. They want to become really successful. Your last message.
I said, listen.
He's showing off the gains.
Guys, we're about to go fly out to Miami, Florida to interview multiple
That's where I used to
$100 million
live.
entrepreneur Patrick Bet David. This is a guy who went from dead broke.
I hope he says, you can bet on it.
And selling a company
You can bet on me. And you know he used that horrible line at some point in his career. There's no way.
It's going to be a masterclass on all things business, from sales to negotiations to money. You do not want to miss out on this. So stay tuned from start to finish to figure out how you can be just like Patrick and dominate any industry that you're in. Let's head out to Miami and go meet Patrick. Come on.
The wind is pretty solid. How you talking?
Look at that security. Just keeping an eye on things. You all right? All right?
Great.
Stay all right.
And how old are you, brother? 22. Okay. 22 years old. What you're doing is very important. Specifically that you're 22 years old doing this. Imagine how many...
I do a lot of mentorship, like a wild amount. Both I've been involved and been mentor people, etc. He has such a mentor vibe. It's hilarious. Like he's immediately, and he's like, yeah, this is an interview, and like this is cute. Like, no, I like it. Like it's fun. We do these things, but this is what you're doing. I like that you're young. Have you thought about this? Like he sees him as Play-Doh already. Not that, again, who knows if he wants to be like crazy involved, but you can tell people that are understanding more than just what the person is saying. They're understanding the person behind the person, or person behind the words. And I like his vibe already, as far as at least how he's approaching things.
Many billions of people have watched your message, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. Very important what you're doing. Do you want to do it here with the wind? You're not worried about the wind? You're good with that?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
So go for it.
Right over here?
yeah, we can step right over here.
Awesome. Who am I here with today?
Patrick Bet David.
And for those that don't know, what industry did
And you notice how he checked the wind? It seems like such a small thing. And again, let's assume it's authentic just for the sake of ease. People that run stuff don't even let the little things get by them, right? Like they really understand. Like a CEO, not that you have to be involved in every level of detail, but like real builders I know will see like a corporate photo and they're like, that lighting looks off. Or it's like, hey, are you sure that you can record? Maybe the angle over here would be better. Like, and it's not even the micromanaging energy. It's they're really paying attention to things. They understand what it means to execute. And given how much content and that, you know, Patrick's in this space, he immediately was like, hey, it's windy, it's loud. This kid's using a mic. He's got his camera guy right there. Is this actually conducive to what he's trying to do? I don't want this for me or him to turn out poorly. Like, did you see how he caught it immediately just to make sure things are good? Most people don't.
First one was insurance. Now it's media and consulting.
Yeah, you built your wealth in insurance. There's a saying that I love: concentration builds wealth, diversification keeps it. At what point should an entrepreneur begin to diversify?
I would put the number 10 million plus. When I first got in,
I think he's
wrote
right.
a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And we had an emergency meeting with 20, 30 of us. We got in and I said, I want you to help us find a blue.
Same idea is you shouldn't go after the general market until you've tapped the early market. You know, if you're a founder, it's like, we should be in 6 industries. It's like, if you were even partially in the early adopter industry of or early adopter segment of one industry, you'd be making $5-10 million a year. So before we become kings of this planet and many others, can we make $1 million? Can we make $5 million? And then maybe, just maybe, if we save our money well and don't like spend ourselves to death, we can use that money to then reinvest in expanding in the other industries faster, quicker, larger, etc. Like, sometimes people want to take 10 steps and they end up pulling a muscle when it's actually much easier to just walk the 10 steps one by one. They try and take 10 steps all at once when it'd be much easier to just walk it one by one.
Option for the company. At the time, I was selling life insurance. You're talking disability, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, variable annuities. I said, we're not doing all that. We eliminated everything. I'm Series 7, 66, 31, 26 life and health. I use none of my licenses, but only life insurance. We grew it from 66 agents to we've licensed 60,000 agents, and eventually we sold the company.
Now you've consulted for some of the biggest companies in the world. In today's
focus is super valuable. If you need 10 products to sell your if you need 10 features to sell your product, do you really understand what you're building? Like, do you really understand where the value is? Or could you have one or two things built in there? Again, sometimes you need an extra feature or two because to make the little ecosystem, the circuit complete. But if you don't need all that, do you need all that?
world, 8 out of 10 companies don't make it past 5 years. When you're consulting for a company, what's the most common mistake, the number one mistake you're seeing business owners make that prevents them from scaling and having that longevity?
Well, the operator, everything rises and falls on the operator. If the operator isn't maniacally focused in growing the business and isn't emotionally stable, he's going to have a hard time. He's got to be maniacally focused. He's got to be emotionally stable. He's got to be able to understand who to take feedback from and who not to take feedback from.
That's actually really good advice.
Getting started, you may hire somebody with a Harvard degree, like, oh my God, this guy's got a degree from Harvard. He must know more than I do. And you allow that person to change the culture of.
Never assume ever, and I mean ever, that because someone has a fancy title or a degree that they are competent. They could be dumb as hell. And I mean, they don't get it. I mean, dumb as hell. I mean, they don't get it, won't get it, can't get it. Right. And it's one of those, people often prescribe a lot of value to these titles instead of not understanding how'd they get that title. And, you know, again, is a 4.0 in a PhD in calculus is different than a 4.0 in, you know, X, you know, whatever, finance, if it's me, right? There's just going to be a difference in complexity, even though it's the same number. Someone who graduated from Harvard could be genius. Another one could be not so genius, right? It's all about, do they actually have skills? This is one of my most fundamental points I try to instill in all founders and even in myself. It is never about the title. It is all about the skill. If you know how to do something, you can have any title you want. You can get paid. You're not paid for your title. You're paid for the skills within it. If you only have one skill, but your skill is closing deals, and all you do is you go, oh, most salespeople, their success rate's 20%, mine's 60%. It's like, you're hired and don't do nothing but close deals. I don't even want you thinking about anything else. Just sit there all day long, close deals, we'll pay you good. That's the value of having a real skill. And you could call him, you know, the sales king, the sales guru, you know, anything you want, any funny, silly name. It doesn't matter. Are they bringing home the bacon?
The company, and then you're like, wait a minute, we just lost what we used to have. Degrees don't mean anything. First, they have to come in and prove to you that they understand what the culture of the company is all about. And you have to have the wherewithal to know, I should take this feedback, I shouldn't take this feedback. And then meanwhile, drive for the vision. Don't get distracted with the vision.
It's a key point. You're always taking feedback. It's a question of what you should listen to and integrate and what you shouldn't. A good analogy that I heard is you should treat it like you're playing baseball and you're the catcher. You catch it and then you bring it to the chest. And the idea is all feedback you should receive. You should let it hit and go, what does this feel like? Was this good? Was this bad? Do I agree? Do I disagree? Like, if you're a founder that's just pushing feedback, you know, and concerns to the side, you might miss some things and some things that you can learn from and mature from and become a better founder and grow your business even more. So you catch it and go like, is this valuable? And if it is, you accept it, you integrate it, you take the advice. If it's not, you toss it back, you move on.
Guys, this interview with PBD has been amazing so far. We're about to get right back to
PBD.
it, but I've got a very, very
I want a
special
cool
announcement to
acronym
make
name.
real quick. So a couple months ago,
I'm just
I
AAC,
launched and
it's lame as
created
hell.
one of the largest entrepreneur communities in the entire world, the School of Mentors, where every
He's
single
flexing.
week I host live calls with the millionaires and the billionaires that I interview on this channel, where the members inside of the community, you guys that join, have the ability to ask your questions and speak directly to the millionaires and the billionaires that I interview, so you can get the necessary knowledge that you need, where you can learn skills. For example, some of the mentors I've had on calls were people like Todd Napola, who owns over $500 million worth of real estate, and he taught our community how to get access to capital and create wealth in real estate without a ton of money. Or how about Sean Mike, who's done over $3 billion in sales throughout his career? He taught our community the art of sales and how to negotiate. Or even James Keys, the CEO of not one but two multi-billion-dollar companies, Blockbuster and 7-Eleven. He taught our community leadership, team building, and how to find the right people to help grow your
Shout out
business.
Blockbuster.
Guys, if there's anything that I've learned over the last 3 years in building a multi-billion-dollar network, interviewing over 1,000 millionaires and over 10 billionaires, it's that there's only one shortcut to success in today's world, and that's mentorship. And that's why we created this community in the first place. And since it's Black Friday this week, we have an insane deal for you guys to get into this community for only $30 a month, the lowest the price has ever been, the lowest it ever will be. You have the ability to join this community, the School of Mentors, and get directly mentored by the millionaires and the billionaires that I interview on this channel. You get access to my network, the people you see time and time again that I interview. You will have the ability to get that knowledge, because guys, information changes any situation. Remember that information can change situations. To join this community, go to the link down in the description of this video. I cannot wait to see every one of you guys inside of this community. But with that being said, let's get back to the interview. Now, throughout your career, in terms of revenue, what was the most amount of money that you made in a single year?
250 million.
250 million. And what took that company from 8 to 9 figures?
Yeah, I'll never forget. When I was doing around 10 million a year, I called Tom. I said, Tom, I don't think I'm a good CEO. I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm a sales guy, at best a sales leader, and I'm good with money. Like, I'm not a spender. I didn't buy my first Rolex till I was 35 years old. I didn't buy my first Ferragamo shoe till I had $500,000 in the bank. I didn't buy a house until I was 37 years old. So I'm not the one that's spending all the money. I'm reinvesting into the company. I said, but I don't think I'm an operator. He says, Pat, we need to find a way for you to go be around other CEOs that have ran bigger companies, and you'll learn from them. I went 3 weeks to Boston. I went to this Harvard OPM program, Owner President Management Program. 144 CEOs, 64 countries. The man who was my partner sitting next to me was the founder of the clothes that girls wear. What is that company called? That lingerie, what is the company? Victoria's Secret. He was the Victoria's Secret of New Zealand and Australia. So I said, how big's your business? This is what you can Google me. I Googled a guy net worth $1.5 billion. For 3 weeks, I kept asking him, what is my job as a CEO? He says, I have 7,000 employees and 6 CEOs that report to me. He was the chairman of the board. And he told me, this is the 4 things, okay? You're either one, thinking about linear growth, which is biz dev and systems. You can spend money into your systems or biz dev, networking, shaking hands, but it's not going to explode your business. He said exponential growth is at the top. Leadership development or innovative campaigns. For example, like Coke came up with Share a Coke with John. I'm not a Coke drinker, but I'm buying the Coke to share it with John. One great innovative campaign for us when I came back took our business to the next level.
As a multiple 9-figure entrepreneur, what was the best financial advice that you ever received?
This is not going to be popular to a lot of people, but always have cash.
One, always have cash. Yeah, I mean, him and Mr. Buffet, as they say, would agree, I'm sure. I think the points he made were actually really, really solid as far as like your job as a CEO. It also depends on how much of a CEO versus COO you are. A COO functions as kind of like an internal facing CEO. So you can almost like divide the role depending on your business and have CEO focus on mission, vision, PR, setting the direction of the company, the extra mission critical stuff. And then you have like this operator side, whether you do it with a COO, director of ops, a series of project managers, it's all the same at the end of the day, but getting people to be the ones that are owning the accomplishment of goals and tasks over the course of a quarter, 2 quarters, a year, whatever it might be, freeing you to do other things, whether it's innovate on a marketing strategy, innovate on the product, innovate on the way that you're positioning the business. Like there are a lot of responsibilities with the CEO, and obviously the buck stops with them, meaning if the one random job or the worst problem in the company has to get solved, who does it go to? goes to the CEO. So you get a bit of both, where on one side you're solving all the worst problems, but the other side you're also making all the biggest moves that can hopefully drive the business forward.
Cash. Always have cash. I remember one time I got a call. A guy says he needs $540,000. He had 2 Wayne Gretzky cards. I said, what kind of cards are they? He says, these are the main cards of Wayne Gretzky, PSA 10 OPG and Topps. I said, I'll give you $540, but I want to pick up the cards in 24 hours. I'm going to send somebody. I need you to meet me at PSA's headquarters in Orange County. Tikron, who happens to be here, he flies out to LA. Yeah, you flew out. You go meet him, picks up the cards, puts it in a new case, brings it back. He's in the airport with $500,000 in his pocket. That card we sold a year and a half later was a Guinness Book of World Record for $2.2 million. This property we're on right now, the guy that owned this bought it for $25 million in 2018, put $7 million of finishes in this. This was announced that's going on the public market for an auction. 4,400 people were interested in this property. 131 signed an NDA. And then there is the day that everybody's bidding. You have to put $1 million to compete. If you don't, you're not competing. The day the auction comes, everyone's sitting there in Zoom, 40, 50 people raising hands, doing the whole thing. We ended up buying this for $25.2 million cash. We wired the money a week later. We bought the property. This is probably a $40, $50 million property. Having cash allows you to pick things up when they're for sale. Unfortunately, not having cash, when the market kind of goes bad, a lot of people don't make it.
I went to a mastermind in March 2023, and there was a
Very
saying
fair.
that great businessmen a lot of time are terrible content creators, and great content creators are terrible businessmen. What's been your secret to creating wealth in media?
Well, that's the concept with trifecta. The market's going to tell you if you know what you're doing or not. Like right now, I was telling you earlier.
You can't be good at everything. And it also begs the question of, if you're so good at doing, why are you teaching? And again, you want to analyze each person that's putting out content or giving you business. It's like when I tell people, when your marketing firm offers packages at $2,000 and $100,000, are you certain they can really do both? Or are they more than likely a $2,000 company that would dream big if they got the 100,000? Like, the skill set that you need determines kind of the level, or what you can charge and what you're good at really kind of can funnel you in a way. And it makes it so it's less obvious that you can do stuff at a later stage or in a different arena. So if he's good at being a CEO, what are the odds he'd be a good content creator? Why is he doing content? Well, now he's a media business. You look at somebody like me and you go, why is Aaron doing content if he's like a successful consultant and startup guy? Because I spend all day teaching startups. What do you think I'm literally doing right now? I'm doing my best to just help and give out free advice in this. And yes, there's paid ways that I work with people, but I also just work on my own businesses every day. And trust me, there's plenty to do over there. This is a one for fun and to, put myself out on the internet, because why not? But more than anything, it's to try and help founders give context and give some context. I see and watch these videos as just a viewer all the time. And I always learn little things or have little criticisms, and I want to share my opinion and share my feedback so that hopefully founders can use this information in a good way to actually make material changes in their business, in their day, etc. So sometimes the context makes sense. Again, I'm a teacher. Whether I'm teaching founders how to run their business, I'm working on my own business, or I'm teaching people online, it's all the same to me. He's been a leader, right? He's been a voice for his company. I'd imagine a lot of CEOs actually probably would be decent content creators because they're used to voicing their opinion. They're used to maintaining an insane degree of eye contact, of confronting challenging questions in very public forums that require them to think on their feet. Like, there's a lot that goes into this thing.
Billions of views you've gotten, you've proven that you know what you're doing. Now, operating, different story, right? The operating aspect is day to day. Content creation, it's brutal. You're either able to get the attention of people or you can't. I'll never forget this. Beginning stages of the business, Mario comes up to me, takes out an iPhone, he says, "Todd, let's start a YouTube channel." At the time, I was only creating content for my insurance agents that was unlisted. Wasn't public, it's private, unlisted. We started, I said, let's see if the market likes the way I communicate. 2 years later, we're blowing up. We have around 1,000 subscribers. Nobody watches our content, including my family. Then we adjusted. I went to an event, and at the event, they said, pick one word. The one word for me became business and entrepreneurship. The next 5 years, every content we created, most of the videos at the end of it, it had one title in it: raising money as an entrepreneur, hiring people as an entrepreneur, firing people as an entrepreneur. 2 years later, 50% of the videos on page one were from our channel, and then that's how I started growing. But the market's gonna tell you, you can either speak, you can either are good for video, or you're good at writing. Everybody has one of those three abilities to get their message out.
Now, I know in a podcast I saw you mention that there's 4.
I agree with that. There's always, and even if you don't have it, doesn't mean you can't develop that skill and, get to a passing grade at anything. I'm definitely not a writer. It's not my skill set. It doesn't interest me. I'm just I find it boring. And as you hear me talk, I'm always using half sentences and compound things and conjugating things weird because I'm trying to communicate. I'm not trying to speak proper English. And sometimes to communicate, you actually can break words and say things randomly and adjust sentences to fit your need, right? It's a different goal with why I'm speaking, as it were. In the same way, if I'm doing written stuff, that's why I have teams review all that stuff. If I'm doing video stuff or speaking stuff, I typically go unprompted and I'll go with no script and I just go off the cuff because it makes me feel more comfortable and more natural because I know what I'm talking about. I just need to apply it to whatever the situation is. And having 800 pages of notes gives me more anxiety than just being prompted with a question on the spot.
4 categories everybody needs to be reading about: human nature, sales, negotiation, and money. What has been your secret to sales throughout your career?
Needs analysis with everybody. It doesn't matter. When my kids, I have 4 kids, every day I do needs analysis with them. What's a needs analysis? I like baseball. I want my son to be a professional baseball player. I'm a Yankees guy, so I want him to want to be a baseball player. He could care less about baseball. He loves watching baseball, doesn't like playing baseball. I do a needs analysis. Loves soccer. We put him in soccer. Now he's excelling. I talked to my oldest son. Could care less about sports, but he likes kickboxing and he loves politics. So I take him when the Trump interview came in. He came and met President Trump. I take him to certain places because he's interested in politics. Clients, needs analysis. I'm asking you what's important to you, maybe different than what's important to me. In the sales business, very few salespeople master the art of needs analysis. The more I do a needs analysis with you, asking you the question that's important to you, then I can make the recommendation based on what's important to you, instead of just jumping to a conclusion, thinking whatever I sold to him, I can sell to you. The art of needs analysis.
I think that's 10 out of 10 advice. Like, that's really good. And a lot of people I know do this in one form or fashion, even if they don't call it like a needs analysis in particular. But the idea of, before you start selling or coaching or mentoring or providing advice or solving a marketing strategy, you should understand what the audience really wants. Like, do they really want conversions? Like, or do they want brand? Do they really want to play sports or watch sports? Do they really want to be in politics or support politics? Like, the more detailed and understanding of your audience you have, there's no obligation on your side to give them what they want. But if you're interested in having a relationship with them and building with them, it's easier for you to come to them or to frame what you have in a way that they would understand now that you know their context and their wants, than it is for you to just try and jam standard pitch number 3 down their throat. Because, oh, it's a mid-20s man. That's the pitch that we do. It's like, well, maybe that mid-20s man has the mentality of a 40-year-old man, and maybe that pitch, that version is actually better. But how are you going to know if you don't actually take the time to talk to them and understand, what do you need? What are you looking for? What's the occasion? It's like when people go shopping and they ask, you know, you're buying a birthday gift, and they go, what's the occasion? Or what's the card that you're going to get? What's the occasion? Because you got to tailor it to what the audience wants, not what you want to give the audience.
We're doing this in the rain, by the way. How awesome is this, huh?
You exited a company for 9 figures. You've been at the table with some hitters. What is your best negotiation advice for anybody in business?
Not putting yourself in a position where you are desperate. Whenever you are in a position of desperation, you're
really
always going
solid.
to get underpaid, and you'll make a bad move that could cost you $100 million. I'll tell you what happened with me. First time.
Here's the other quick thing on that. Even if you are at a disadvantage and even if you are desperate, you can never appear desperate. This is like one of those like dating scenarios. If you have a girlfriend, you can get a girlfriend, right? But if you don't have one and you're desperate and needy and just not doing so hot, it's like you're going to struggle because they can smell it on you, right? Just like investors and business partners, if they sense that you're weak, if they sense there's an issue, if they sense that you're desperate, it is not even that they're a good or a bad person. It is human nature. Something in them just boils up, and it's like, I'm not gonna let this guy treat me like an equal if he's not my equal. And if I have the advantage, I should take advantage. Now, there are very few 1% business people that, even if you're weak, as long as the deal is good, they'll make it nice, right? Because they have a long-term vision with you. But there are plenty that the second they smell that weakness, they're going to go, let me take advantage of this, even if it's only 5%. But that 5% could be your entire margin if you're a struggling business. So you got to be really conscientious, really, self-aware of how you come off to the people that you're talking to. And it's not that you want to lie, but there's positive and negative spins you can put on everything. And you don't want to come in that your business is just one giant negative spin. It's a great business with a few opportunities for improvement, as it were.
Guy came to want to buy our company. Comes, he's walking around our facility. He says, do you mind if I talk to all your employees? I said, go talk to everybody you want. You were there. He goes and talks to everybody. Then we're going to dinner that night at this restaurant called Chamberlain's in Dallas. We sit down. It's me, his CFO. Boom, they have the money to buy the business. We follow up. They make the offer. Here's the offer. The offer was a small offer, $120 million. Okay. He said, however, the reason why we're making this offer and we're only giving you 50% up front is we need you to stay with us for 5 years. I said, why is that? He says, when I walked around your facility and talked to everybody, I asked them, how hard does he work? And they all said, you are the hardest working person in the company. You're there 7 days a week. We can't buy the business because you're running the company. I said, I can't sell it to you. So I had a new strategy. I left Texas. I moved to Florida 4 years ago. I hired 5 new C-suite executives. They ran the business. The next time around, when they came and interviewed with everybody, they said, Pat's only here once every 6 months. And I'm running by Tim and our consulting firm here. Then I got more than two times the.
You can't, if you're irreplaceable in the business, it's an advantage in the early days because it means you can stick around, but it's actually a disadvantage later because then it means you can't move on. You can't do other stuff. And obviously investors can anchor you to the business if they think that you're the reason why it's succeeding. I have a framework in my head. It's always first we master it, then we document it, then we offload it, right? And whether it's you master it and then you give it to the COO, or you hire COOs and different operators that master it and then push it down. If it can't be systematized, documented, if it can't be made into a generally followed series of rules, it probably means you don't understand it well enough. And if you were someone looking to buy a business, would you buy the business where the team doesn't understand what they're doing enough to write it down and have somebody else do it? It's a fair question, right? Or at a minimum, it hurts your valuation.
Valuation I got just because we were patient, not desperate. We waited 2 years.
When it comes to the way that people look at money, what separates middle class from people who are able to build that long-term generational wealth like yourself in today's world?
What you're feeding yourself and what you're thinking about money. I mean, at some point in your life, my dad and I are having a conversation about life and marriage. And he's telling me certain fears that he has about marriage. And I said, Dad, time out. I don't want to hear that. He says, why? I said, I don't want to believe that's the truth. You may believe that. I don't want to believe that's the truth. My mother about money. I'm not buying that. So you have to, at one point in your life, refuse to buy into the philosophies that your parents and loved ones sell to you. If it doesn't make sense, question it. Don't believe it.
Just because someone believes it doesn't mean it's true. There's a lot of things you believed. You believed you knew where your keys were 2 days ago, and you were wrong, right? And I bet you believed pretty strongly as well. Just because it's not that you have to go into la la land. And, I know certain people take it to the extreme. Like, if the thought doesn't serve me, I don't even consider it. And it's like, yeah, it's one way to live your life, but it's also a life built off of like fear of what those thoughts are. And it doesn't mean you should let them, take over, but you kind of got to be willing to hear everything because you never know where you might get a lesson, right? And I actually like what he said because it's this whole idea of just because it served your parents doesn't mean it serves you. And just because it was right for them or maybe true in their life doesn't mean it's true for you. Now, there's a difference between like ignoring market norms. Like if the dad was like, hey, divorce is pretty common. And you go, I refuse to believe that. It's like, well, this is not a negotiation. It's 50%. Like, you're wrong, right? And you have to be open to being wrong. But if the dad has X, Y, and Z specific thing and he has this view that's negative, and then he goes, you know what? I know that only 5% of marriages have this, but I'm going to choose to focus really hard on making mine one of those. We have someone that understands the stakes of the game that we're playing and is making the bet appropriately. You can lose a 99% certain bet, but you can also win a 1% certain bet. But if you go in there treating the 1% like the 99%, you're pretty destined to fail.
Your last message to somebody out there, they want to become Patrick Bet-David wealthy in today's world. They want to become really successful. Your last message.
A guy sends me a minute and he says, hey, Pat, where I'm living at right now, nobody believes in money. No entrepreneurs in my country. Nobody, my family made money. None of all this stuff. He's just saying how it doesn't exist around. I said, listen, when I was coming up, there was no youth. There was nobody to follow and seek inspiration for content. Nobody in the world has an excuse today to learn and win at the highest level. If you're living in a place that you don't have access, different story. But everybody today has access to information to be able to change their life. Do not find
ignorance is a choice in today's world,
if you grew up in
for
a poor
sure.
family, don't buy into any of that stuff. Anytime. Hey.
You guys, that's a wrap on today's video. I need you guys to like and subscribe
Very
for amazing
solid.
content.
Honestly, I'm pretty impressed with Mr. Patrick Bet-David. And excited to see what other videos, you know, of his I can react to. I'm not really interested in any of his political stuff because there's enough morons talking about that. I don't need to add my voice to that. But overall, his entrepreneurship stuff, pretty goated, pretty great. So thanks for the video. Hopefully the context, you know, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully the context helped. Oh, look, Mexican-American, that's me. That's me. But let me know if there's any questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.